Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the secrets hidden within company filings. And today we've got a doozy that is all about putting two companies together. Let's just say it involves more than just a handshake. Get ready because we're diving deep into a big announcement that could reshape the future of a company called Freenome. This report is all about how they're planning to become one with a special acquisition company, Perceptive Capital Solutions Corp. So, what is the big news Perceptive Capital Solutions Corp, or PCSC as we'll call it, announced they're teaming up with Freenome Holdings Incorporated in what is called a business combination. Think of it like a merger, but with a bit of a twist. PSC is essentially a shell company set up to buy another company, and Freenome is the target. This is a pretty common strategy in the market, especially for companies that went public through what is known as a SPAC, or a special purpose acquisition company. Essentially, PCSC is set to deregister from the Cayman Islands and become a Delaware corporation. This is called a domestication, and it is a way to change where the company is legally based. Pretty technical stuff, but it is important for how things will work going forward. When all is said and done, the combined company will actually be called Freenome Incorporated. So, it looks like Freenome is the one really calling the shots here, absorbing PCSC into its identity. Now, before this whole thing becomes official, PCSC is going to let its shareholders sell their shares back for cash. This is a pretty standard part of SPAC deals where investors get a chance to cash out if they're not too keen on the merger. This happens right before the big domestication step. The actual business combination involves a couple of mergers. First, a subsidiary of PCC called Merger Sub, I will merge with Freenome. Freenome will be the survivor, but it will then become a wholly owned subsidiary of PCSC. This is where things get really interesting financially. The deal values Freenome at a hefty $725 million. That is a big number, and it sets the stage for how shares will be exchanged. Now, here is the nitty-gritty for Freenome shareholders. All their Freenome common shares will be converted into new Freenome common stock based on an exchange ratio. This ratio is what ties everything together financially, and it is calculated based on that $725 million valuation. Even Freenome stock options and restricted stock units will be adjusted and carried over into the new Freenome equity plan. This means the existing Freenome team and investors are set to become shareholders of the newly formed Freenome Incorporated. But it's not just about exchanging shares that already exist. PCSC is also bringing in new money through something called a PIPE financing, which stands for Private Investment in Public Equity. They've agreed to sell 24 million shares of the new Freenome common stock to these PIPE investors for $10 a share, raking in a cool $240 million. This is a significant chunk of cash that will go into the combined company, helping to fund operations and growth. It is important to note that some of these PIPE investors are actually affiliated with PCSC's sponsor, which is pretty common in these deals. For the deal to close, there are a bunch of conditions. One big one for Freenome is that the total cash available from PCSC's trust account plus the money from the PIPE financing needs to be at least $250 million after any redemptions. This is a crucial number, as it ensures the combined company will have enough capital to operate and execute its business plan. If this cash threshold isn't met, Freenome might not have to go through with the deal. They'll also have to get all the necessary paperwork filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the CC, and make sure the new Freenome stock gets approved for listing on the NASDAQ exchange. Shareholders of both PCSC and Freenome will also need to vote and approve the deal. Like any major agreement, there are ways for this deal to fall apart. If they can't get it done by the 5th of September 2026, either side can walk away. Also, if shareholders of PCSC don't approve it, or if any government entity blocks the deal, it is off. And importantly, if Freenome stockholders don't deliver their written consent to approve the deal within 2 days of the SEC declaring the registration statement effective, PCSC can terminate the agreement. This shows how crucial shareholder support is for this transaction to move forward. This report also highlights the sponsor letter agreement. This is an agreement between PCSC and its sponsors, along with some key insiders. They've agreed to vote in favor of the business combination, which is a pretty big commitment. They're also waiving certain anti-dilution rights, meaning they're okay with their shares being diluted by new issuances, which is often a sign they believe strongly in the future of the combined company. This is a clear signal of confidence from those closest to the deal. Looking ahead, the combined company, New Freenome, will have a new equity incentive plan. This plan will be used to grant stock options, restricted stock units, and other stock-based awards to employees and consultants. The initial number of shares reserved for this plan will be about 12% of the company's fully diluted shares at closing. Plus, there are provisions for that number to grow each year, which is a common way to incentivize long-term performance. They're also setting up an employee stock purchase plan, which is great for giving employees a chance to own a piece of the company through payroll deductions, often at a discount. Now, this filing also touches upon unregistered sales of equity securities. The shares sold to PIPE investors aren't registered under the Securities Act, relying on an exemption for private placements. This is standard for PIPE deals, but it means these shares have different rules and regulations attached to them compared to publicly traded ones. To go along with this filing, PCSC and Freenome also released a press release and an investor presentation. These documents are designed to give the public a clearer picture of the deal, the companies involved, and the expected benefits. It is always a good idea to check these out, as they often provide more color and context than a dry sec filing. This business combination between PCSC and Freenome looks like a solid strategy for Freenome to get the capital and public market access it needs to grow. Bringing in $240 million through the PIPE financing is a substantial validation of Freenome's business prospects. The fact that Freenome is essentially taking over the identity of the combined company, and the deal valuation of $725 million suggests that the market sees significant potential in Freenome's technology and its future. However, there are always risks. The deal closing is contingent on many factors, including shareholder approvals and meeting certain financial thresholds. The success of the combined company will heavily rely on Freenome's ability to execute its product development and commercialization plans, as well as navigate a competitive landscape. The language around forward-looking statements is extensive, as it should be, listing numerous potential risks from market conditions to regulatory hurdles and the successful integration of the two entities. This is standard, but important to keep in mind that projections are just that, projections. Overall, this is a transformative step for Freenome. It is moving from a private entity to a publicly traded one through a SPAC merger. And the substantial PIPE financing suggests a strong belief in its future. The key will be their ability to deliver on their promises and navigate the challenges that come with scaling a cutting-edge technology company. Alright, that is our breakdown of this significant business combination announcement. What is your take on this deal? And do you think Freenome will live up to its projected valuation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps. And subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out our Discord community linked in the description for even more insights and discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.